A single click changed everything. When Natalie Hayes discovered an unknown device on her Wi-Fi network and stepped outside to change her password, she never imagined becoming the target of police investigation. But as officers arrived at her doorstep, what began as a simple neighbor's paranoid 911 call would unravel into something far more sinister. In the quiet community of Pinewood Heights, someone was watching. Not just Natalie, but everyone. And the culprit was hiding in plain sight all along. This is the story of how the most private woman in the neighborhood uncovered the most invasive violation imaginable, and how the person everyone misjudged became the hero no one expected. Natalie Hayes was a private woman. In the bustling neighborhood of Pinewood Heights, Maryland, she was known as the quiet woman who kept to herself. She worked remotely as a software consultant, maintained an immaculate lawn, and only engaged with neighbors when absolutely necessary. Her desire for solitude wasn't rooted in unfriendliness. Natalie simply valued her privacy and personal space above all else. For 3 years, this arrangement worked perfectly, until one ordinary Tuesday changed everything. The morning started like any other. Natalie woke up at 6:30 a.m., made her coffee, and settled in for a day of coding. By noon, her focus was interrupted by a frustrating discovery. Her video conference kept freezing, music streaming was lagging, and websites were loading at a glacial pace. "What is going on with this connection?" she muttered, running a speed test on her laptop. The results confirmed her suspicion. Something was draining her bandwidth. Natalie wasn't the type to call tech support immediately. With her background in IT, she decided to investigate herself. She opened her router configuration page and scanned the connected devices. That's when she saw it, an unknown device labeled Pine8 S12 connected to her network. Natalie frowned. She lived alone and was meticulous about her digital security. Her smart TV, laptop, phone and tablet were all accounted for with familiar device names. This was something else entirely. "How did someone get my password?" she wondered aloud, scrolling through the connection details. Without hesitation, she kicked the unknown device off her network and immediately changed her Wi-Fi password to something more complex. To ensure a stronger signal while making these changes, Natalie stepped onto her front porch, leaning against the railing as she carefully typed in the new credentials. That's when Patricia Dawson spotted her from across the street. Patricia, a retired high school principal who had moved to Pinewood Heights 5 years ago, had always been suspicious of Natalie. Her reluctance to attend neighborhood gatherings and general aloofness didn't sit well with her structured worldview. People who kept to themselves usually had something to hide. At least, that's what she believed. From her living room window, Patricia watched Natalie intently. There she was, standing unusually still on her porch, focused intensely on her phone, fingers moving rapidly across the screen. To her, it looked secretive, calculated, suspicious. "That woman is up to something," she whispered to herself, reaching for her phone. Without allowing herself a moment to reconsider, Patricia dialed 911. "Emergency services. What's your emergency?" the dispatcher answered. "Yes, hello," Patricia began, her voice hushed yet urgent. "I need to report suspicious activity in my neighborhood. My neighbor across the street, she's outside right now doing something very suspicious on her phone. She's been standing there for several minutes, typing frantically. Can you describe what makes this behavior suspicious, ma'am?" the dispatcher asked. Patricia hesitated. "Well, she's very secretive, never talks to anyone. And now she's just lurking on her porch, looking around nervously while doing something on her phone. I think she might be hacking into something. Maybe our neighborhood security system." The dispatcher asked a few more standard questions, which Patricia answered with increasing certainty despite her lack of concrete evidence. 10 minutes later, a police car pulled up in front of Natalie's house. As the sirens faded, Natalie looked up from her phone, confusion crossing her face. She had just finished setting up her new secure network when two officers approached her property. Detective Marcus Rivera stepped out first, a seasoned officer with 15 years on the force. His partner, Officer Tessa Williams, followed close behind. Both moved with deliberate caution, trained to treat every call with appropriate seriousness. "Ma'am," Detective Rivera called out as they approached, "we received a report about suspicious activity at this address. Mind telling us what you're doing out here?" Natalie blinked, genuinely confused. "Suspicious activity? I'm just standing on my own porch, changing my Wi-Fi password." Officer Williams studied her carefully. "Do you live at this residence, ma'am?" "Yes," Natalie replied, trying to keep her irritation in check. "I've owned this house for over 3 years. My name is Natalie Hayes." Before Detective Rivera could respond, a voice called out from across the street. "She's always acting suspiciously," Patricia shouted, now standing on her own front lawn. "Always on that phone, always watching everyone." Natalie's jaw tightened as she realized what was happening. "I was changing my Wi-Fi password because someone unauthorized was using my network. That's literally all I was doing." Patricia crossed her arms. "Oh, likely story." Detective Rivera turned to Patricia. "Ma'am, do you have any specific evidence of illegal activity?" Patricia's confidence wavered slightly. "Well, no, but she's always been strange. Never comes to neighborhood events, always watching from her windows." Natalie couldn't believe what she was hearing. So being introverted is a crime now. Detective Rivera raised a hand to calm the situation. "Ma'am, would you mind showing us the router settings you were working on, just to clear things up?" Though frustrated at having to prove her innocence, Natalie understood the position the officers were in. She unlocked her phone and pulled up the router admin page. "See? Here's the list of connected devices. This one, Pines S12, doesn't belong to me. I was removing it and changing my password." Detective Rivera leaned closer to examine the screen, and his expression shifted from routine investigation to genuine concern. "This device has been connected to your network for how long?" Natalie scrolled through the logs. "Looks like 3 weeks consistently." Officer Williams stepped forward. "And you have no idea what this device is?" "None whatsoever," Natalie confirmed. "But whatever it is, it's been using a significant amount of bandwidth, almost continuously." Detective Rivera's posture changed subtly. This wasn't just a neighbor dispute anymore. "Ms. Hayes, does your router log show what this device was accessing?" Natalie tapped through a few more screens, then froze. "It looks like... Wait, this can't be right." She scrolled further, her expression growing increasingly disturbed. "It appears to be accessing video streams, multiple feeds." Patricia, who had edged closer during the conversation, suddenly looked less confident. "Video streams? What do you mean?" Natalie's voice was steady but serious. "According to these logs, whoever was on my network has been accessing surveillance camera feeds, not just from my house, from multiple addresses in this neighborhood." A heavy silence fell over them all. Officer Williams was the first to speak. "Ms. Hayes, we need to see everything you have. Can we continue this inside?" Natalie nodded, leading the officers into her home. Patricia hesitated before following, uninvited but too invested now to stay behind. Inside, Natalie connected her phone to her laptop for better visibility and pulled up the detailed connection logs. The room fell silent as the implications became clear. "This device wasn't just stealing internet," Natalie explained, pointing to bandwidth patterns on the screen. "It was using my network as a relay point to access security camera feeds from at least 6 different houses in the neighborhood." Detective Rivera leaned in closer. "Including your own?" "Yes," Natalie confirmed, bringing up another screen. "My security cameras, Patricia's," she glanced up at her, "and several others on our street." Patricia's face paled. "Someone's been watching us in our homes?" The accusatory tone was gone, replaced by genuine fear. Natalie nodded grimly. Based on these logs, yes, for weeks. Detective Rivera straightened up. Can you trace where the feeds were being sent? Natalie's fingers moved quickly across the keyboard. I'm not a hacker, but these logs show data being transmitted to another local IP address. She paused, looking up. It's another house in this neighborhood. Whose? Officer Williams asked, already reaching for her radio. Natalie cross-referenced the IP with a neighborhood directory she had from an HOA email. It belongs to... Her voice trailed off as she recognized the name. Patricia stepped closer. Who is it, Natalie? She turned the screen toward them. Tyler Sanders, the college kid who house-sits for the Millers when they're away. Patricia gasped. The Millers have been in Europe for the past month, which means Tyler has their house to himself, Detective Rivera concluded, already moving toward the door. Williams, call for backup. Ms. Hayes, thank you for your help, but I need you to stay here. Natalie nodded, but as the officers prepared to leave, Patricia remained frozen in place, her earlier suspicions now painfully ironic. I'm sorry, she whispered to Natalie. I thought... Natalie's response was interrupted by Detective Rivera's sharp voice. Let's go, Officer Williams. Ma'am, you should return to your home and lock your doors until we resolve this situation. As the officers left, Natalie and Patricia stood in uncomfortable silence. The woman who had called the police on her just an hour ago now looked small and embarrassed. I judged you unfairly, she admitted finally. Natalie nodded slowly. You did. But right now, there's a bigger problem to deal with. From the window, they watched as Detective Rivera and Officer Williams approached the Miller's house, where Tyler Sanders, the real threat, had been hiding in plain sight all along. The next hour unfolded in a blur of activity. Additional police cars arrived, surrounding the Millers' colonial-style home. From Natalie's front window, she and Patricia watched as officers approached with tactical precision. They didn't have to wait long. Within 20 minutes, they saw officers escorting Tyler Sanders, a lanky 23-year-old computer science major who had always seemed polite and unassuming, to a police car in handcuffs. Detective Rivera returned to Natalie's house shortly after, his expression grave. "We found everything," he confirmed, standing in Natalie's living room. Sanders had set up an elaborate surveillance operation. Multiple monitors, recording equipment, storage drives filled with footage, some dating back 6 months. Patricia covered her mouth with her hand. 6 months? But he's only been house-sitting for the Millers for 4 weeks. He's been house-sitting for various families in the neighborhood for over a year, Rivera explained. Each time he'd set up equipment, create backdoors into their networks, and expand his surveillance web. By the time he was at the Millers, he had access to cameras in 12 different homes. Natalie shook her head in disbelief. How did he get access to all these security systems? He created a sophisticated network of fake Wi-Fi access points, Rivera explained. When your devices would search for known networks, his system would respond with a stronger signal mimicking your home network. Once connected, he'd have complete access to your traffic. A man-in-the-middle attack, Natalie murmured, the technical reality sinking in. Rivera nodded. Exactly. And most people wouldn't notice because their internet would still work, just through his compromised connection. Patricia looked devastated. And I called the police on the one person who actually discovered it. Detective Rivera turned to her. Your call led us to uncover a major privacy violation affecting this entire neighborhood. However misguided your initial suspicion was, the outcome was necessary. He turned back to Natalie. We'll need your technical expertise for the investigation if you're willing to help. Sanders had a sophisticated setup, and we need to understand exactly how far this breach extended. Natalie agreed without hesitation. In the days that followed, she worked closely with the police cybercrime unit, helping them dismantle Tyler's surveillance network and identify all the victims. The final count was staggering. 17 homes, over 40 different camera feeds, hundreds of hours of recorded footage. The neighborhood was shocked when the news broke. Many residents had hired Tyler for house-sitting, tech support, or network setup, never suspecting he was creating backdoors into their most private moments. A week after the arrest, Patricia organized a neighborhood meeting at the community center. Nearly everyone attended, anxious to understand what had happened and how to protect themselves. Natalie, who would normally avoid such gatherings at all costs, found herself standing at the front of the room beside Detective Rivera, explaining in simple terms how the breach had occurred and what steps everyone should take to secure their networks. "The simplest precaution is to regularly change your passwords," Natalie advised the crowded room, "and be suspicious of any network issues or unknown devices connected to your home internet." As the meeting concluded, Patricia approached Natalie, extending her hand. "I want to formally apologize," she said, her voice steady despite her obvious embarrassment. "I let my biases cloud my judgment. I assumed the worst about you because you were different, because you valued your privacy." Natalie considered her words before accepting her handshake. "Privacy isn't suspicious," she said quietly. "Sometimes it's just a preference, and sometimes, as we've learned, it's worth protecting." Patricia nodded, understanding the deeper meaning in her words. "Would you consider joining our neighborhood watch committee? We could use someone with your expertise." Natalie smiled, a small, genuine expression that few in Pinewood Heights had ever seen. "I'll think about it." As people filed out of the community center, many stopped to thank Natalie or introduce themselves properly for the first time. She responded politely, though still somewhat reserved. Detective Rivera observed this from across the room and approached as the crowd thinned. "Interesting how things work out," he commented. "The quiet neighbor everyone misjudged turned out to be the hero." Natalie shook her head. "I'm not a hero. I just wanted my internet to work properly." Rivera laughed. "Sometimes that's all it takes, paying attention when something doesn't feel right." As Natalie walked home that evening, she reflected on the irony of it all. Her desire for privacy had led her to discover one of the most invasive privacy violations imaginable. The neighborhood that had once viewed her reclusiveness with suspicion now saw her technical knowledge as valuable. Standing on her porch, the same spot where this whole ordeal began, Natalie looked across at Patricia's house. She waved from her window, and after a moment's hesitation she waved back. She would still value her solitude, her quiet evenings alone, her personal space. But perhaps, she thought as she unlocked her door, there was something to be said for being part of a community too, even if it was on her own terms. The next morning, Natalie changed her Wi-Fi password again, not because she had to, but because she could. Because in this digital age, protecting your privacy isn't paranoia, it's wisdom. And sometimes the person everyone misjudges is exactly the person everyone needs.